Hello and welcome to the Remote Revolution, a podcast by Virtual Mojo. This is where we explore how modern businesses are transforming the way they work through remote teams, virtual support, and smarter operational strategies. In each episode, we bring you insights, conversations, and practical ideas to help entrepreneurs, leaders, and growing companies build efficient, scalable, and future-ready organizations. If you're looking to work smarter, scale faster, and unlock the power of remote talent, you're in the right place. Let's begin.
Welcome to Season 1, Episode 10 of The Remote Revolution with your host, Aneeq, and Umaima as our guest. Today we talk about AI is coming for VA roles, what business owners need to decide right now. And, I really have to ask you right off the bat, is your virtual assistant currently plotting against the new AI tool you just bought?
Or, is that AI actually coming for their job today?
Right, because we are living in this bizarre moment of, corporate paranoia. Nobody quite knows who is replacing whom, and the anxiety on both sides of that remote desktop is it's absolutely palpable.
Oh, it really is. I mean, you have founders and business owners who are just salivating over the prospect of infinite, cheap efficiency.
Yeah, of course they are.
Right. But then you have these highly skilled virtual assistants who are literally watching automated systems execute their daily checklists in fractions of a second. It creates this environment where everyone is just holding their breath, waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Which brings us directly to our sources for today's deep dive. We're looking at a huge stack of comprehensive industry analyses that detail exactly how AI is disrupting the remote work and virtual assistant space.
And there's a lot of noise out there right now.
So much noise. So our mission for this deep dive is to basically cut right through the apocalyptic hype and, the utopian marketing spin too. We really need to figure out if human VAs are genuinely going extinct or if we're just looking at a massive structural evolution in how work actually gets done.
Because if you scroll online for 5 minutes, the internet will aggressively convince you of both scenarios.
Oh, totally. One post says you're fired, the next says you're going to be a billionaire.
Exactly. And grounding this in operational reality is essential. I mean, the theoretical conversations about artificial general intelligence taking over the world, those just aren't helpful to a business owner trying to make payroll this week.
No, not at all.
Or a virtual assistant trying to secure their career trajectory for the next 5 years. We have to look at the ground floor of what is actively happening in businesses right now.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because to figure out where we are going, we really need to move past the generic buzzword of automation and establish the actual mechanics. What is AI actually capable of doing behind our backs right now?
Right.
A modern tech-savvy business owner already knows an AI can draft a polite email. But we need to look deeper at how this disruption is genuinely functioning.
Yeah, and to understand those mechanics, we kind of have to separate the technology into two distinct forces. The sources show them acting almost like a pincer movement on traditional administrative work.
Okay, a pincer movement. What are the two forces?
So you have generative AI on one side and workflow automation on the other. Workflow automation, when we're talking about tools like Zapier or that acts as the digital plumber.
And plumbing.
Exactly. Doesn't think per se, but it spots an invoice landing in a really chaotic inbox. It strips the PDF attachment and it routes that raw data straight into your accounting software.
So the plumbing silently moves the data from point A to point B.
Yeah.
There's no human manually dragging and dropping files anymore.
Precisely. And then you introduce generative AI like ChatGPT or Claude, which acts as the engine.
Okay, the engine. I like that.
Right. It receives that unstructured data, synthesizes it, and actually interprets it. So the plumbing routes a 50-page quarterly report to the engine, and the engine reads it, understands the parameters, and drafts a highly coherent executive summary.
In 2 seconds?
Yeah, pretty much instantaneously. And the combination of these two forces means that highly repetitive pattern-based tasks, they're just evaporating.
Wow.
Cross-referencing 3 different time zones to find a 30-minute meeting window, heavy data entry, sorting client inquiries. These are now basically instantaneous functions.
Yeah. Okay, but I have to jump in here, though.
Yeah.
Because this creates a massive friction point for anyone looking at their balance sheets.
No, absolutely.
If the digital plumbing and the generative engine can take a 40-hour administrative workload and compress it down to, say, 10 hours, that completely breaks the traditional virtual assistant pricing model.
It does. It shatters it.
Right. If I am paying a retainer for 40 hours a week and the machine does the job flawlessly in a quarter of the time without needing a lunch break or calling in sick, why on earth am I keeping that human on the payroll? At that point, keeping them around feels like charity, not, a competitive business strategy.
And honestly, that reaction is incredibly common, but it stems from a fundamental misunderstanding of what a business actually requires to survive.
Really? How so?
Well, we have to draw a hard line between execution and strategy. AI is an execution engine. It speeds up manual tasks brilliantly, and as you pointed out, it creates a massive void of time.
A 30-hour void.
Yeah.
But those tasks don't exist in a vacuum. When an AI summarizes that 50-page quarterly report in 2 seconds and notes that revenue is down 12%, it has executed the task perfectly.
But it's just feeding me numbers. It has absolutely no idea what that 12% drop actually means for my company culture, or like how close we are to missing our runway.
Exactly. And it certainly cannot formulate a nuanced, empathetic communication strategy to reassure your most volatile, high net worth investor who is prone to panic.
Oh, man. Yeah, I wouldn't want an AI talking to an angry investor.
Definitely not. AI is entirely based on historical data and probabilistic math. It can tell you what happened, and it can predict the most statistically average response, but it cannot read the room.
Right. It lacks that intuition.
Execution is just the baseline, applying judgment, navigating the messy reality of human relationships, and pulling strategic levers that still requires human intervention.
So, treating the AI like a fully autonomous team member is basically like putting a highly advanced calculator in the driver's seat of a car.
That's a great analogy.
It can process the telemetry and the fuel consumption metrics instantaneously, but it has absolutely no idea where the car is actually supposed to go. It needs a human setting the destination.
Yeah, and the machine will crash the moment it hits an unprogrammed variable. And business is, well, entirely made up of unprogrammed variables.
So true.
This is why the executing capabilities of AI don't eliminate the human. They simply change what the human is required to do.
Wait, if the AI is handling all the heavy lifting of scheduling, sorting, and data entry, we really need to figure out what the human is doing with that massive 30-hour void we just talked about.
Right, because they need to be doing something.
Exactly. Because moving from task execution to strategy sounds great in a boardroom, but I need to know what that actually looks like in practice. We are shifting from the fear of replacement to the reality of role evolution.
The sources categorize this as the transition into higher value work, because large language models, the tech behind these generative AI tools, are essentially highly complex probabilistic token predictors. Right. Think of it like the autocomplete on your phone, but with a PhD in corporate jargon. They are mathematically designed to generate the most average, safe, predictable sequence of words.
Which makes them fantastic for writing standard operating procedures or like polite follow-up emails.
Yes, but terrible for complex relationship management. Let's look at a really concrete example from the sources.
Okay, let's hear it.
Imagine your company accidentally sends the wrong deliverable to your absolute biggest client, and that client sends a furious, expletive-laden email threatening to cancel their massive contract.
Go a total disaster scenario, the kind that ruins your week.
Exactly. Now, if you let the AI handle it autonomously, the LLM will read the aggressive text, recognize the pattern of a dissatisfied customer, and trigger a boilerplate apology email offering a standard 10% discount code for their inconvenience.
Which is technically the most average, statistically probable response to a customer complaint.
Right.
But sending a generic coupon to a raging VIP client wouldn't just fail. It would probably insult them so deeply they'd take their business to a competitor out of pure spite.
It demonstrates a catastrophic lack of emotional intelligence. The AI doesn't know that this specific client values exclusive access over discount.
Yeah, it has no context.
It doesn't know that the client's own boss is breathing down their neck and that they just need to feel heard and validated. A human virtual assistant steps into that 30-hour void to handle exactly this.
I see.
They read the emotional temperature of the situation. They immediately pick up the phone, bypass the email entirely, validate the client's frustration, and use human judgment to perhaps bend an internal company rule to overnight a replacement deliverable.
So, AI isn't replacing the virtual assistant. It is replacing the SOP, standard operating procedure. The VA is evolving from an SOP follower into an SOP manager. They aren't the ones manually fetching the data or typing out the first drafts anymore. They're the ones looking at the AI's output, deciding if it makes strategic sense, and making the judgment calls when things go sideways.
What's fascinating here is that the industry analysis points to this as the singular dynamic that will define successful companies moving forward. It is not AI versus VAs, it is AI plus VAs.
I love that. AI plus VAs.
Yeah, when a virtual assistant learns to wield these tools effectively, they transform from an administrative helper into an operational powerhouse. They leverage the machine for velocity, and they leverage their own human experience for strategy and leverage.
So they basically become the system architect. I love this idea of a highly empowered VA armed with AI tools just crushing operations.
The ideal scenario.
But let's get into the dirt here, the messy middle. If I am a business owner or a remote manager listening to this deep dive right now, and I want to integrate this AI plus VA model into my team, the operational friction of actually doing it seems enormous.
Oh, it's significant.
How do you mix humans and artificial intelligence in the real world without causing an absolute mutiny?
Well, the friction is exactly where good intentions go to die. The sources outline the most common scenario happening in the market right now, which is the botched rollout.
Oh, I've seen a few of those.
Leaders see a new AI tool on social media. They get completely hypnotized by the marketing promises of 300% productivity boosts, and they just drop it into the company workflow without any strategy whatsoever.
Well, we've all lived through a software rollout like that.
Yeah.
It's the classic midnight Slack message. Hey team, just bought this AI tool. Everyone start using it tomorrow. Let's be more efficient.
Yes.
It is a recipe for absolute chaos.
And worse than chaos, it breeds deep paranoia. I mean, put yourself in the shoes of the virtual assistant. If your boss suddenly integrates a piece of software that effortlessly does half of your daily job.
And nobody says a word to you about it.
Right. Nobody has a direct conversation with you about how your role is evolving. Your immediate logical thought is, I am getting fired by Friday.
Because the silence implies replacement. And when employees think they're on the chopping block, they don't suddenly become highly innovative strategists. They enter pure self-preservation mode.
Exactly. The psychological barriers to AI adoption are actually far more difficult to overcome than the technical ones. An anxious employee operating from a place of fear will actively resist the transition.
How does that resistance usually look?
The sources detail how this sabotage isn't always overt. It's often really quiet. It's forgetting to use the AI tool. Or, more commonly, it is feeding the AI incredibly vague, poorly constructed prompts so the machine hallucinates and generates garbage.
Oh, wow. And then the employee can turn around and say, see? The AI doesn't work. It makes too many mistakes. We have to go back to my manual spreadsheet.
Yes.
They weaponize their own inefficiency to protect their paycheck.
It is entirely a defense mechanism. To prevent this, the transition requires a fundamental shift in how leaders communicate and how they measure ROI.
Okay, so how should they measure it?
You can no longer measure a VA's performance by how many emails they clear out or how many calendar invites they send. The machine does that now. If you measure them by execution, they will fight the machine. That makes total sense. You have to start measuring them by project outcomes, client retention, and proactive process improvements.
So communication isn't just a soft HR concept here. It's a critical operational strategy. How do I actually frame this conversation so the VA doesn't panic?
You have to frame the technology as a wrench, not a replacement worker. The messaging must be explicit from day one.
Like literally day one?
Yes. You sit down with your VA and say, I value your strategic mind and your understanding of this business way too much to have you spend 4 hours a day copying and pasting data.
Oh, that's good.
We are implementing this tool to handle the robotic busy work so you can take over the Q3 vendor negotiations and help me grow the bottom line.
That completely flips the script. It empowers the VA. You are giving them a highly advanced wrench and saying, you are the mechanic, go fix the engine.
Exactly. When people understand the bigger picture and see that their role is evolving rather than evaporating, they become the biggest champions for adopting the new tech.
They become the architects of the workflow rather than the cogs trapped inside it.
Beautifully put.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. Everything we've discussed assumes the business owner is proactive and willing to navigate this transition. But let's look at the dark side of this equation.
Okay, let's go there.
What if I decide this is all just a passing fad? What if I look at the messy middle, decide it's too much friction, too many HR conversations, and I just stick to my traditional, comfortable, human-only VA model?
That's what the sources call the do-nothing risk. And the market analysis highlight this as perhaps the most fatal error a company can make right now.
Fatal. That's a strong word.
It is, but the danger isn't that your business collapses overnight in a dramatic explosion. The danger is the slow, compounding nature of efficiency.
Walk me through the mechanics of that risk. How does compounding efficiency actually choke out a traditional business?
Think about your direct competitor who chooses to integrate these tools. Because their virtual assistant is acting as an SOP manager rather than an SOP follower, they are operating at a completely different velocity.
Right.
When a high-ticket inbound lead emails both of your companies, your competitor's AI-augmented system drafts a customized, highly relevant response, and their human VA reviews it and hits send in 3 minutes.
While I'm still paying someone to manually hunt for meeting time, type out the email, and double-check for typos, I respond 2 hours later.
Exactly. In week 1, that 2-hour difference might seem negligible. You might still win some of those deals.
Sure.
But fast forward a year, that efficiency compounds daily. Your competitor can process onboarding documents instantly instead of taking 2 days. They can manage double the client load without increasing their payroll overhead.
Wow.
They have fewer bottlenecks, faster resolution times, and highly personalized service at scale. Eventually, they create an unbridgeable gap in the market. You won't just be a little behind, you will be entirely outpaced and priced out by a company moving at light speed.
That is a very sobering reality check. But it also perfectly sets up another crucial point from the sources, shattering the cost-cutting myth.
Oh, this is so important.
Because the immediate reflexive temptation for a lot of founders is to look at AI, realize it saves 20 hours a week, and think, fantastic, I'll cut my VA's hours in half, move them to part-time, and pocket the cash.
And the sources explicitly warn that slashing hours is incredibly short-sighted. You cannot shrink your way to greatness.
Explain the math on that. Why is saving money a bad idea here?
Because it actively stunts your growth. If AI frees up 20 hours a week for your virtual assistant and you cut their hours by 20, your business stays the exact same size.
Right. You're not doing more work.
You are servicing the exact same number of clients, just with a slightly wider profit margin. But the transformative benefit of this technology is leverage.
Leverage, okay.
If you keep their hours the same and actively redirect those newly freed 20 hours into proactive customer outreach, deep market research, or optimizing your sales funnel, you transition from merely saving money to aggressively generating revenue. You are scaling your output without scaling your headcount.
Okay, I'm completely sold on the philosophy, but I need a concrete starting point. If I'm listening to this right now, whether I'm a founder or a VA, and I want to trigger this evolution tomorrow morning, what is step 1? No massive, expensive software overhauls. What is the immediate practical application?
The sources provide a wonderfully straightforward practical audit. It's a simple 3-step action plan.
Perfect. What's step 1?
Step 1, sit down with your VA, or if you are the VA, sit down with your manager and map out every single task handled in a given week. Put it all in a shared document.
Like everything.
Everything. Step 2, identify the bottlenecks. You are looking for the tasks that are highly repetitive, follow predictable patterns, and are disproportionately time-consuming.
The soul-crushing stuff. The copy-pasting, the calendar Tetris, the raw data entry.
Exactly those. Those are your immediate candidates to be handed over to workflow automation or generative AI. And then you arrive at step 3, which is the most critical.
Okay.
Collaboratively design the new responsibilities.
So filling the void.
Right. You look at the time you just reclaimed and you ask a very specific question. If we suddenly had an extra 10 hours a week, what broken system in this company could we finally fix? What strategic project could we launch that we never had time for?
That is such an empowering way to frame it.
Oh.
It completely changes the dynamic from a fearful conversation about job security into like an exciting conversation about opportunity and growth.
It really does.
So what does this all mean? Pulling all these threads together, the core insight from this deep dive isn't really about software at all. It's about human potential.
Absolutely.
AI is not here to replace the virtual assistant. It is here to strip away the robotic, monotonous tasks that we've been stubbornly forcing human beings to perform for decades. The machines are finally taking the machine work.
And that leaves the complex, messy, intuitive relationship-building work to the actual humans.
Right. Adaptability is the absolute key here. Whether you are the business owner trying to scale an empire or the virtual assistant trying to future-proof your career.
This does raise a fascinating question, though, and it is a concept hidden in the sources that warrants much deeper reflection. It involves the entire future architecture of businesses.
Oh, this is the really wild prediction. Lay it out for them.
Well, the sources point toward a near future consisting of smaller teams doing significantly more work, If a single virtual assistant, fully empowered and augmented by an entire suite of AI tools, can effectively handle the administrative, analytical, and scheduling load of 5 traditional employees, what happens to the traditional corporate structure?
Right.
Will we eventually see massive, globally influential empires run by just 2 or 3 hyper-efficient human beings? Are we entering an era where the sheer size of a company's staff is no longer an accurate indicator of its market power, its reach, or its revenue?
It completely shatters the old metrics of success. I mean, the ultimate corporate brag used to be, I have 100 employees in a giant office. In the near future, the ultimate brag might be, I run an 8-figure global empire with a core team of 3 people.
Exactly.
It really makes you wonder what kind of massive operation you could build if you stop treating your team like robots and finally let the actual robots do the heavy lifting. That is definitely a profound thought to mull over as you audit your own workflows and look at your team's potential this week. Thank you all for joining us in this deep dive, and we'll catch you next time.
Thank you for listening to The Remote Revolution. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe and share it with other professionals who are building the future of work. To learn more about how Virtual Mojo helps businesses grow with highly trained virtual assistants and remote support teams, visit www.virtualmojo.com. For inquiries or collaborations, reach out to us at contact@virtualmojo.com. Until next time, keep building smarter systems and embracing the future of work.